Welcome to the AmeriFirst AmeriTrust Speaker Series. My name is Craig Olmstead, and I'll be your host for today's event. We are thrilled to see continued growth around the country with our interviews. Please register to find out about our upcoming speakers at www.amerifirst.com/speaker-series. We're using the Zoom platform and encourage your questions throughout the event today. Please use the Q&A or chat box at the bottom of your screen. If you don't see that, feel free to send your emails in to consideritdone@amerifirst.com, and we'll try to get those questions answered for you. It's my extreme pleasure to tell you a little bit about our guest today, Gino Blefari. Gino is currently the Chief Executive Officer for Home Services of America, the country's largest residential real estate brokerage company based on transactions. He is also chairman of HSF Affiliates, which includes Berkshire Hathaway and Real Living Real Estate. Gino started in the real estate business in 1985, working his way through the business and learning all that he could about real estate. In 2002, he founded Silicon Valley, California-based Intero Real Estate Services, and by 2014, Gino, serving as president and CEO, was responsible for one of the fastest organically grown companies in the history of real estate. Some of Gino's awards and accomplishments include Italian Businessman of the Year, Mentor of the Year by the Buffini Company out of 2,500 mentors, member of the RIS Media's Real Estate Hall of Fame, top 25 most influential leaders in real estate, and many others. Welcome to our speaker series, Gino, and thank you for taking the time today to be with us.
Thank you for having me here. It's my pleasure.
So today we have panelists that are going to be asking Gino the questions, and those panelists are Ron Burgum, President of the Southwest Division, Mark Jones, President of AmeriFirst, Dave Game, CEO of AmeriFirst, Doug Long, President of the Southeast Division. Ron, I know you and Gino have a history together, so I'm going to give you the floor for the first question.
Thanks, Craig. Gino, great to see you, my friend. It's been a while, but we have the pleasure of having you on to make the investment of your time and stories and experiences today with the company and the listeners. So thanks very much, my friend. I just thought it'd be appropriate to kind of, for the listeners that are on the call today, know you, but some people don't know you. Why don't you start off with just telling us about your background? How'd you get, you've had an amazing career, you're an amazing human, and what got you from where you were? How'd you get in the business? What's your background? What's your story? What's the Gino Blefari we should know?
Okay. And probably my story is very similar to the stories of many realtors or even many loan agents. I started out in 1985 as a realtor. And Ron, I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but I didn't know anything about real estate. I didn't have any friends in real estate. My parents weren't in real estate, and I was broke. In fact, I still remember having a $1 bill in my pocket for about my first 6 months in the real estate business. And what I did was I was very determined to become successful in real estate. So I turned my TV off for a year and just listened to the old tape cassettes and videos of Tommy Hopkins, Mike Ferry, Floyd Wickman, any trainer that could be, and getting myself ready to do it. Struggled a great deal. Finally, it clicked, sold my first house, and then things started to change and the momentum grew. And I had actually after my first 6 months, that next year I ended up having a really, really good year, and really never looked back after that. From there, from brand new, started out at Fox and Carskadden. My Little League baseball coach called me up. He had a little company called Contempo Realty. We grew that company from about 65 agents to 650 agents. And in 1997, we had the privilege of selling that company. Realogy bought it. I stayed on as the president of that company, and we were the Century 21 brand. Ran that for about 3.5 years. And then we merged that company into Coldwell Banker Northern California, and I was a senior vice president for NRT, Realogy's operating company of their brokerages. I had a 5-year non-compete after Contempo was sold, and the entrepreneurial juices started flowing, and I was just moved to start a real estate company. And so in 2002, I founded Intero Real Estate Services. You mentioned that. It was mentioned in the introduction. And Intero, I was fortunate to be working in the industry for 20 years and knew some really great people in Silicon Valley where I worked. And we grew that company, as they said, organically, technically 0 to 1,000 agents in 18 months on a regular standard type, what we call a normal old school commission schedule. Nothing fancy, but we had a great vision guided by the principle of trust, respect, and integrity. We empower people to achieve their dreams. And we have 15 great values, and we hired one agent at a time, grew that company. And then by 2013, according to Real Trends, it was the 7th largest real estate company in the country. Got a call out of the blue from Ron Peltier, letting me know that Warren Buffett had bought a network from Brookfield that was the former Prudential network, that they were looking for a CEO. Said, I'll call you back in a week, but we'd like to know if you'd like to be the CEO. Think about it. Called me back a week later. I told him, thank you for the call. I've already got a company here, and so no thank you. And besides, wouldn't it seem a little strange for me to own a regional company and be the CEO of a brand? And that's when he said, I'll make that transition, I'll make that transition possible for you by buying Intero. And sold Intero, became the CEO of HSF Affiliates. And then we grew the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services brand up to 50,000 agents. And then just this past year, I became the CEO of Home Services of America, which we talked about. Now, before that, I worked at a golf course, put myself through college working at a golf course, and there's a whole little story behind that, but that's probably more than we all need to hear. Bottom line is, just like everybody out in that audience, and really, I think where I can relate to a lot of people, if I could do it, it's pretty much make certain everybody else can do it, because I started out just like everybody that's just brand new in the business.
That's, when I look at you right now and I see the flag standing next to you, it makes me think about the opportunity in this country, and you're an example and a testimony to that. So thank you very much for that answer. It's a great story.
Gino, it was a great story. I really appreciated it, and how I think all of us smiled when you said I was broke, and that's what motivated me. It's amazing how being broke is a great motivator. And all the way from there to being working with Warren Buffett, it's just an incredible story. So thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, that whole idea of that $1 bill in my pocket, which I remember having for so long, was back in '85. You'd get a cup of coffee. It wasn't a grande chai tea, almond milk, for $5, right? It was 75 cents, and I got 25-cent tip, and at least I could cover myself.
Exactly. I've been there. So listen, we're blessed to have a lot of our mortgage loan originators on the phone, a lot of real estate agents as well, and with experience levels all over the board, from rookie all the way up to a seasoned vet. And I'd like to have you share with them what advice or strategy that you might have for all the different levels, how they would get to their career or their level of production up to that, raise their game to that next level.
Okay, I believe, and I think you guys do the same thing, that real estate and mortgage is really based on relationships that you create. Is that a fair statement? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so here's what I would recommend someone to do, and it's got a proven track record, because it's exactly what I did. I would get people that are in my center of influence, or my sphere, my local community. So that's how I do it, if I'm a realtor. Now, if I'm a loan agent, what I would do is I'd pick out 3 or 4 different realtors that you would meet every week, coffee, away from the office, and just sit down with them. And what I'm going to do after this, I will send it to you, and then you can get it out to everybody that's listening. But I'll send you actually my actual routine, because some of this is in there. But what I would do, what I recommend is, or what I did, was I'd go to the coffee shop, and let's say I was going to be meeting Ron. And Ron would come in, and then I'd have a series of 18 connecting questions that I would ask Ron. Nothing to do about getting a loan, nothing to do about buying a house, all about connecting with him. And that would take exactly, I could head it down so it would take 30 minutes. It'd be questions like, so what do you do? How'd you get started? Where are you originally from? What's your current family situation? What was your family situation growing up? Were you active in school? Give me a memory that stands out. There's just 18 type connecting questions, and you're just asking those questions in a flow and getting that back. Well, what would happen to me, and which I think will happen to our loan agents and the realtors out there, is you've talked to that person, you spent some time with them, and in the non-conscious portion of their brain, or in the reticular activating system portion of their brain, they start to notice things at work, somebody talking about refinancing or somebody talking about buying a home, and boom, it comes right back to you because you spent that time with them. Now, the idea of doing it for 30 minutes and maybe having another person come in for 30 minutes is designed for this reason, and it's the law of reciprocity. The law of reciprocity is, if I ask you these questions, you're almost automatically going to want to know those same answers about me. But the time is up, so now I've got another meeting with them. And that would be my advice, is create relationships and just go in there and if I'm a loan agent, call on, say, hey Ron, I just want to meet you. And, oh, well, no, I already got a loan agent. I don't need to talk. No, it's not about that. I just want to get to know you, right? Just take that approach. That's how I would do it. I did that when I'm recruiting agents. I did that when I was trying to build my center of influence, and I would recommend that for anybody to do because, just even the time I got to spend with you guys as we talked about this call and everything, I think there's going to be a little bit more of a bond between us all just because of this. And that's what I'd recommend. Make sense?
Beautiful. Thank you.
Dave, mute. Still muted.
Hey, why don't I go ahead and go, Greg?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there's Dave. Okay, good. There he is.
There we go, Dave.
I got two different mute buttons, I guess, so my apologies. But anyway, Gino, appreciate the answer. Appreciate you being here, sir. Very, very impressive story. So my question is a little bit on the line of what you talked about, but as I think about the wisdom you bring to this forum, again, understanding that we have a number of real estate agents, we have a number of loan agents, and knowing that you started at $1 in your wallet, I heard it, and broke, and then you went in Turo in '02, and today you're in the biggest of the biggest real estate companies in the country. With that as a backdrop, a two-part question. With the vast size, the speed, the technology that's at play today in the current marketplace. So when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the Zillows and the Redfins, the OfferPads, the guys that are disrupting the real estate industry, if you will. Can you speak to us, two parts? Can you talk first about your view on these disruptors, how you see this playing in, and think about it in terms of the big guys, the small guys, we're made up of all of those. And then the second part is what you talked about a little bit, how we can win through maybe not getting caught up in the technology war, but the high touch through relationships. So speak to those if you would for us.
Okay, let me just take a shot at that there. And as far as the disruptors and the people out there, they're out there and they're always out there. There seems to just be so much talk about what's out there. And I'll give you a couple of examples. In 1999, so 20 years ago, we sold about 5.2 million homes. Okay, we did that with about 761,000 agents. Okay, and now fast forward to 2018, we sold 5.2 million homes, even though there's 15 million more households. Right? Let's go to the other side of leads. In 2011, when everybody started getting big and into the leads and the Zillow stuff, we as realtors and maybe lenders, realtors bought about 4.5 million leads in 2011, and we sold about 5.2 million houses. Fast forward to last year, okay, in 2018, we bought 100 million leads, and we sold 5.2 million houses, okay? So just kind of an interesting thought, 15 million more homes. We're still selling the same amount. All these leads being regurgitated, and we didn't bring these people in from another planet, right? They were people that are in all of our centers of influences and things like that called here and called there and called there, and all of a sudden they're a lead that got bought to us. But realtors got so much into the hype of getting leads and having leads and things like that. So, I think there's a lot more noise than really disruption out there. So that would be my thought on that piece there. Now the second part was about the relationship.
Yeah, and how we can battle these big guys by taking it to the streets personally, through the personal relationship.
Yeah.
High touch versus high tech.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And touching it, I kind of touched on it on the first answer that I gave you there. But here's what we've got to be. You've got to, whether you're the mortgage person or the realtor, you got to be the trusted real estate advisor. That's kind of like the role you need to take on, in my opinion. And you need to do that before, during, and after the transaction. Because by the time it gets into the funnel of everybody deciding they want to sell their house or get a loan, everybody's going after them, right? But if you can build that relationship before, and to where they just call you, here's to that same point. All the statistics say that 2/3 of the people that buy a house, and maybe the same thing with lending, do it with someone that they got referred to or someone that they've done business in the past, okay? And then they also say that, what do they also say? The bottom line, so that's 70% there. And they also say 2/3 of them say they list or sell or buy through the only agent. They only contact one agent. You follow me on that? So really, this whole big battle that we're having right now is for 30% of the business. Those 100 million leads are for 30% of the business. Okay, I hope that makes a little bit of sense there. These things that I talk about. So,
very, very encouraging. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. We're selling 5.2 million homes in '99 with 761,000 agents. Selling 5.2 million homes in 2018 with almost 1.4 million agents, right? 15 million more households. Nobody's pushed the dial. Nobody's moved that. That's what we got to figure out to do. How to get more of them. Okay. So hopefully that was helpful. So the high tech, high tech and high touch. They just have to be out there and talk to people. You just got to be, the old saying, you got to make contacts to write contracts, right? You just got to do your job, know it's your job, treat it as a business. I think maybe on the mortgage side now they're employees. In the real estate side, we're still independent contractors. Okay, is that okay, guys?
Yeah.
Great answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gino, thank you. It's Doug Long. Good seeing you again, my friend.
Yeah, Doug, great to see you too.
Just, you're known for something called the West Coast offense. You've got this strategy. Can you tell us what that means and how do you use it?
Yeah, it's funny. It got its name, from being here in San Francisco, being a 49er fan. And in the 80s, I started real estate. In the 80s, the 49ers are the team of the 80s. And, of course, it's Bill Walsh. And Bill Walsh had an interesting thing where he could wave his magic wand over a quarterback. And all of a sudden, that quarterback played better than he ever had before, And I wasn't, planning on making this a sports analogy, but there's such great analogies between sports and our business of real estate and mortgage because it is a meritocracy, right? Our raise gets effective as soon as we do. But I watched Bill Walsh way back in Cincinnati with an expansion team and how that the dredges of the NFL and how that quarterback did really well. His name was Virgil Carter, and Bill actually spread the defense out. Now, I speak from a pretty good vantage point because Dwight Clark, the catch, was my best friend. All right. And so Dwight and I were very, very close before he died. In fact, my beach house in Capitola was actually Dwight's residence now, and there's a shrine to it. So Ron, when you come out, give me a yell and we'll swing by there. He's giving me the thumbs up from the room. Any case, then I saw then the next thing that Bill had was a guy by the name of Ken Anderson, and that was an interesting thing because what Bill told me there was Ken Anderson told Bill, like, talent will always exploit the system. So the system's good. So Ken Anderson comes into the league, and he's the best quarterback in the NFL in Walsh's system. Leads in every measurable category. So that's kind of interesting. Now, Bill's supposed to get a head coaching job there. This is a long version, and I'll try to make it as short as I can on the West Coast offense for real estate because there is an analogy here. Bill's supposed to get the head coaching job in Cincinnati, gets passed over, gets pissed off, goes to San Diego. San Diego inherits a struggling third-year quarterback by the name of Dan Fouts. Fouts had only thrown 3 touchdown passes those 2 years before. He's number one in Bill's in the system, Bill's system. Then he gets a chance to go to college. He inherited at Stanford as senior Guy Benjamin. He wins the Sammy Baugh Award, top collegiate quarterback in the nation. He graduates. Steve Dills comes in, wins the Sammy Baugh Award. Crazy, crazy things going on. Like there's a pattern there, right, Doug? Goes to the 49ers. At that time, 1977, the worst franchise, not in the NFL, in all of sports. Their quarterback, Steve DeBerg, worst quarterback statistically in the NFL. 45% completion, 23 to the other team. Bottom line, boom, in Walsh's offense, he completes more passes than any other quarterback up in that time. So I could go on and on and on and on, and I guess maybe at another time when we're just chatting, I'll give you the rest of the story. So I saw how Bill did that, and I thought, wow, if I came up with a system for running a real estate brokerage or team or even agents that had some of those things in there. So one of the things Bill used to do is script the first 18 plays. So I said, okay, I'm going to script the first 18 things that I do from getting up, and that'd be the perfect day. So it's got a number of things that were time tested over time in it that comes together. And it's interesting because in 2009, after the debacle and everybody almost being broke, I really got serious with it. And Intero grew pre-tax profit from 2009 to 2013, 223% per year, which is unheard of in a real estate company. Took that into the network, showed it to like 7 of our top companies, this little system, and they, over a 2-year period, increased their pre-tax profit by 180%. Now, at the same time, Home Services of America, the company that I own, when I went back and looked at their numbers during that same time, the best operators in the country went down 7.63%. So it's kind of a system of doing certain things, and it has many things in it. Part of it is the 4 disciplines of execution. And if you want, maybe not on this question, but I can cover that with you because that's 1/20th of the system. Okay. It's got, things like 1 day per month, you close your door, and for 8 hours, everybody on your team recruits, right? And that would be for a manager type thing. It's got putting the 10 commitments every single month of what you're going to do and tracking that. It's got working from a list, but having the top 7 things in the list. It's just got all sorts of things in it as part of the system.
Well, hey, Gino, thank you. And by the way, I grew up as a Dallas Cowboy fan. I lived in Dallas.
Okay, right. So
you kind of remember that Cats thing, by the way.
Yeah, and what Dwight always says to you Dallas Cowboy fans is, sorry, I was only doing my job,
Great first round of questions, guys. Want to remind everybody we don't have the Q&A box today, so feel free to type in your questions in the chat section. Also, if you are not around your computer, send an email to consideritdone@amerifirst.com, and we'll get those questions posted for you. Ron, let's fire around round 2.
Thanks, Craig. So, Gino, you have this statement you say, and it's keystone habits that create small wins. Keystone habits that create small wins. And for all of you listening, please write that down. So You know, you believe that life and success in life and success in business is a function of a great routine. I've listened to this for the last 3 weeks straight. I've been listening to the routine and this concept of keystone habits that create small wins. Unfold that for us, unpack it, and let the group know what that actually means.
Okay. So thanks, Ron. And let me just say how the best way to frame this one here. So I'm a brand new agent, okay? And I'm broke. And each day I get up, and I get up afraid. And I know that wasn't the best way to do it. As I studied what to be done, I've discovered, after studying a lot, that I would try to find these tiny advantages, nothing that had to do with real estate, but everything that would have to do with creating the strongest mental mindset. So I didn't want to, I wasn't the best real estate person yet, but I wanted to go in there with the strongest mental mindset. And I found that if I could create a routine that would get me there, and when I would come by the time I got into the office, I was fearless. So I developed this kind of like this routine. And
I got to stop you right there, because I want people to pass that. So you start in the morning afraid of what the day is going to bring to you. And by the time you get in that office, you said fearless?
Yeah. So here's what it is. You wake up and you're a little bit, you're broke and you're like, oh man, I got to sell a house, and is real estate for me, and is what going on? This is early in my career, right? And I knew that was the wrong way, because I knew as a salesperson, because I studied it so much, that I was going to perform exactly how I saw myself. So I needed to work harder on myself than I did on my job, even though I'm going to work super hard on my job, right, Ron? Okay, so I developed this routine, okay, to find those tiny advantages in a business where victory's measured if we sell the house. We come in second, we don't get paid. Victory's measured if we get the loan. If we come in second, we don't get paid, right? So I want to find those tiny little advantages, and that's how the routine came about. Now, the first part of the routine is to get into the right state, So you have to figure out what's going to change that state from going from the little kitty to the frickin' tiger, right? Because they love the kitty, but they want to list their home, or they want to do their loan with the tiger, So I needed to move that needle. And for a lot of sports guys, you'll see them, they got their headphones on and they're listening to their hip hop music, right? And they're getting in the zone with that. For me, it was reading things. I had listened to this book on tape by Gino called Mission Success. And in that book, there was about a 3-minute section, and I was driving in my car, and I felt my state start to change because I was hearing things like this. And I've read it so many times, I could actually recite it to you, but it's 3 minutes long, so I won't. But it's got things like, Ron, I will live today as all good actors do when they are on stage, only in the moment. Look, I'm going to cover my eyes so you don't think I'm freaking reading this thing. I cannot perform at my best today, regretting my previous acts, mistakes, or worrying about the scenes to come. I'll take off my coat and make dust in the world. So you get the picture, right? I realize the busier I am, the less harm I'm have to suffer, the tastier will be my food, the sweeter my sleep, the better satisfied I will be with the place in the world. So it's a whole little mantra. It's things like, now I understand the secret of changing the attitudes of others, and that's to change my own. So it's got all good stuff. When I email you, Ron, I'm going to give you kind of the whole first part of the routine that you could pass out to anybody. And that actual thing by Gino will be in it. Next thing I do is I'm going to read the poem by Rudyard Kipling, If. Remember that one there? How is this for a loan agent or for a realtor? If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, right? If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, right? Or if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, right? So I'll read those things, and that starts to change my state, all right? And there was a set of things. The other thing was Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, which we all have heard, and we talk about masterminds. That was actually where the whole idea of masterminds came about. 1937, he was talking about creating that third mind. But in his book, he had this self-confidence formula, Ron, and that's where it broke down to you're going to perform how you see yourself. So I had to try to make myself be very confident by the time I went in. Okay? Make sense?
That makes a ton of sense. Now, this is the routine of meds. You take your meds?
Yes. So my acronym is MEDS, and so the first thing on the routine is MEDS. And M stands for meditation and prayer. Okay. E stands for exercise. D stands for diet, and S stands for sleep. And those are keystone habits that create small wins. And the way it works is once you get one thing going, it leads to another thing, and it leads to another thing, and it leads to another thing, right? You get your workout routine down, you get your mindset routine down, all of a sudden your eating routine gets down, the different things happen, small wins.
They go together. They all go together. So I give you this for that. You get a solid 10.
Thank you.
Well, I've got to add Gino to my morning list. I do a similar thing, but he's not been on my list. I actually wrote down Mission Success because I'm not familiar with that. So
yeah, I'll send you the little insert part that I pulled out of the book. You'll get it in the email when we're all done. All your listeners and loan agents and anybody who's interested in doing it can get it.
Also, well, the next question I was going to ask you kind of already asked, so I'm just going to say it, give you your answer, and then I'm going to go down to number 3, and that was does high touch always beat high tech? And what I heard you say earlier was like on 70% of the cases, yes. So
I mean, that's every survey. It's every survey from NAR.
Today,
the crazy thing is sometimes even as the broker of record, and you always try to have the greatest realtors on your team, but someone will call up with a legitimate complaint, and I was the broker of record, right? So I would get that call, and sometimes, I hate to admit this, but I was thinking, why did you hire this agent, right? And again, it was the first one they talked to. Right? And that's 70% of the time they go with the first person they talk to. That's why it's so important to establish that relationship as the trusted real estate advisor, right?
Yeah, I think so many people are afraid of what's going on in technology and Zillow, just kind of disrupting them, that they hear all the noise, and that's what you use, the term you use, noise. So looking into the future, I want you to take a minute, look in your crystal ball, and what do you see the landscape of traditional real estate, brick and mortar, offices transitioning over the next 5 to 10 years, models being changed? And, in other words, what does real estate and real estate finance 2025 look like in Gino Blefari's world?
Yeah, the truth answer is, of course, I got no freaking clue, right? Less brick and mortar. Okay, maybe not no brick and mortar, but less brick and mortar. Is as long as the people are going with someone that they know and trust or that's recommended, 70% of them are still going with that. Here's the craziest darn thing. There's some more stats on that there. If you went back to, I think it was 1998 and 2018, it was something like 69% of the people used a realtor in 1998, and it was up to 82% in 2018. It's going the opposite way. But I would say, less brick and mortar, and as the older dinosaurs get out of the business, and kind of like the younger people that are certainly more mobile and things like that, you will have certainly less brick and mortar. But it's going to be hard to not have that relationship piece when it's such a big deal of what you're doing.
Yeah, if you're working from home, how do you get out and visit and make that face-to-face connection? That's a really good point. Thank you.
Excellent point. So Gino, clearly discipline is a big part of who you are, and I know that we're going to talk a little bit about your discipline of execution, but I want to talk a little bit about goals. I listened to several of your podcasts, which were outstanding, and I heard you talk about goals and goal setting, and I heard you talk about working extremely hard. I think you said sprinting towards your goals. In this talk, you talked clearly about that, but you also talked about making sure that you maintain balance in your life, and so you've done it. And so share with us how you accomplish this delicate balance that we got to do.
Okay, well, part of it is really like loving what you do, okay? Because when you love what you do, you kind of create your own balance, because it's really not all work. Like tomorrow, Saturday morning, okay? Now, I have breakfast at 6:10 every Saturday morning with Johnny Johnson, former buddy of mine, a good buddy of mine, but former Ram NFL player, runs world-class coaching, and it's kind of a business meeting, but we're friends having breakfast, and usually I'll have 2 other people from a mastermind will join that, and that's from 6:10. By 7 o'clock, I'm meeting with a handful of Intero managers from 7 to 8 o'clock, and then I'm starting my normal. I'm off on my Saturday day, right? So part of it is loving what you do. And when you love what you do, here's the greatest part. When you love what you do and you get to work for people you admire. I work with Ron Peltier, Greg Abel, the heir apparent to Warren Buffett, and Warren Buffett. Wowzer, right? So that helps you with that balance there. But getting back to that, I learned in time management years ago, and now I have this little course I teach with 64 points on time management. And I think one of the first points is schedule yourself out a year in advance. And the first thing that you put in your schedule is your days off, your vacations, anything that give you balance. And if you can kind of put that in, and then if you can be a system person. Now, my phone's with me now almost 100% of the time because I'm traveling and I'm a complete empty nester. But here's what I found, and here's a good example for you. I'd be on the phone coming home from work, and my kids were 5 and 7 years old, and I pull in the driveway and I'm on a business call, right? Let's pretend I'm talking to Ron, and we got this tough deal. I'm pleading with him to approve the loan or whatever, right? Pull any string he can. And my kids came running out, and they're trying to say, hi, Daddy. And I freaking lock the car, okay? You know how terrible I feel, right? But I got to finish this call. So what do? I immediately figure out how can I not have that happen again. And so the rule was I couldn't be on the phone when I was on Highland Circle. So as soon as I turn off, sometimes I would drive through the neighborhood until I could get off the phone and be on Highland Circle. Well, another thing that I would do is to not be distracted was everybody knew I got up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. So I'm going to leave my phone in the garage and then go into the house. Because then if it was with me, I'd be looking at it, right? So you just set up things that almost force you to get to have the balance. So what I did in the early days was the first thing I put in my schedule was my vacation. I book it, I pay for it, and then I got to go. Okay. I do want to confess, we usually go to Hawaii, and in Hawaii, everybody's sleeping. It's 3 hours later or earlier. So it's earlier. It's easier to get up earlier. It's like you guys coming from the east to the west, right? So it's early to get. So I get up, maybe 4:30 or 5. And for 1 hour, I might work with my admin because it's 8:30 or 9 here. And then boom, I'm off. So it's just creating systems for that. Oh, was that okay?
That was awesome.
Great stuff.
Hey, Gino, Doug again. Just wanted to ask you quick on this. You brought up 40X. We got some feedback here. But 40X was the 4 disciplines of execution. You brought that up earlier. Can you kind of talk about that and explain what that means?
Sure. It's part of the West Coast offense. Now, what you got to understand, it's 1/20th of the West Coast offense. So, 40X, I know, okay, you got the West Coast. It's not it, but it's a great little system, and it's not a Gino system. It was something I was kind of unconsciously doing, and then I just kind of really focused on it. But it's 4 disciplines. Focus on your wildly important goal. I like to call it a WIG. Act on your lead measures. Have a compelling scoreboard, and create a cadence of accountability. Those are the first 4 disciplines. So the first discipline 1 is the discipline of focus. You're going to focus on 1, 2, or 3 of the most important things. Now there's some rules to that. Well, one of the rules is you only focus on maximum of 3 things. Another rule is you as the leader, if you have a team, you can veto, but you can't dictate what you do. Okay. The third thing is, the battles you choose must win the war, right? You got to, whatever battles you're going to choose. So let's pretend I'm running a real estate office, okay, or a mortgage office, and my war is to grow profit. So the battles I choose must win the war. So it might be per person productivity, which would be loan agent productivity. It might be average loan amount or the big margins on your loan. It'll be just different things in there. The battles you choose must win the war. And then the last thing on discipline number 1 is just like any goal. It's always from X to Y by when. And a great reminder of that is the greatest wig of all time was John F. Kennedy's wig when he said, we're going to land a man on the moon, X, bring him home safely, Y, and we're going to do it by the end of the decade. That was your perfect X to Y by when. Now, what did that do? That rallied NASA. But if you go back in time to May 25th, 1961, before he said that, and look at the stock market right after he said it, even the stock market gave the whole country, momentum, right? So that's discipline 1. Discipline 2 is to act on the lead measures. So what happens? We always are looking at lag measures because lag measures are, here's what, I did this many loans last month. I did this many things. The lead measure is taking the app. The lead measure is getting the lock. All of those lead to your loan. So you're going to act on the lead measures. So I'd have people committing to acting on the lead measures. In fact, Ron, one of these times, Ron, on a Monday morning, because I still do a WIG call with the franchise group, I'll conference you in and you can listen to me do one, okay? And then maybe I can do one for all the guys if you think about it at some point. But it's a great call, Ron, on that we could do. But in any case, so that's discipline. Now, a lead measure is predictive and it's influenceable. If I do this, I get that. I like to look at it as a big lever. The lever's got to move a lot to move the goal a little. Got to make a lot. I got to talk to a lot of realtors, right, to get a relationship and then to get a loan app. And so the loan app and the lock would be the lead measure to the loan, to the WIG of the goal of getting the loan, right? Because once you get them to the lock stage, you got a pretty high percentage. But even you got to start out at least with the application. So lead measures, predictive and influenceable. The other one is a compelling scoreboard. Everybody has to know what the score is. This is for the first time home services is seeing this. For me, I just, today was the first day I put a scorecard out there and stacked every company, and scorekeeping is not micromanaging. Scorekeeping is scorekeeping and it's driving a behavior. So that's the discipline 3 is to have a compelling scoreboard. Everybody at all times must know the score. Couple rules is number 1, it's got to be easy to see. So you can't just have it on your computer. You can't have it on the wall. It's got to be somewhere. At Carroll, I would send the darn thing out to the manager. I'd send it out to the admin, and I'd have the admin please post it in the manager's office. So he'd have to see the darn thing, right? So that's that one. Now, the fourth one, the first 3 disciplines set up the game, but you're not in the game without this 4th thing, and that's to create a cadence of accountability. And that's a rhythm of a weekly call that you would do. I call it the WIG call. So I say, Doug, this week I committed to talking to 10 realtors, and I talked to 10 realtors. This week I committed to doing 5 loan apps, and I did 4 loan apps. Next week I commit to talking to 25 realtors and doing 5 loan apps. So you declare, review the scoreboard, or you say what you were going to do, review the scoreboard, and then you declare what you're going to do. That it's just a simple rhythm, okay? And the team holds accountable. I'll tell you something that'll blow your mind. The greatest year that Prudential ever had with a franchise sales team was 2005 when everybody did great, okay? We 2.5 times our sales team, their revenue with our system, and they did it with 27 franchise sales guys. We did it with 7 because I call them hired assassins. They're just on it. They do their job. That cool on 40X?
Awesome. Beautiful.
Gino, I've heard you use the word realtor and probably 21 times in the 45 minutes we've been doing this, and I'm guessing by the emphasis on the last 3 letters that and I've had a pet peeve as long as I've been in this career about there's no A in realtor, right? And I'm guessing that's troublesome for you based on the way you say realtor.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I can remember, and I love Larry Knapp, and he was my boss at one time at NRT, and he would say realtor. And then I remember the HR lady said it's a realtor. No, it's realtor. And so it's funny. I took a I was always into self-improvement. And so I take a vocabulary course on a tape cassette. First word they tell me, one word that's always misspoken is realtor, and they talk about it, right? And so for 27 years, I taught principles of real estate practices, and professional selling at De Anza Community College. And the first thing I'd make that poor class stand up and say, realtor, realtor, realtor. So yeah, that's it.
Good. Yeah, I've worked hard at that with loan officers for a long
Don't
time.
let them say realtor, because for some of us, it'll it's kind of like saying, to tell you the truth. Oh, were you lying to me all that other time? Right? Different people have different reactions.
Exactly. We have a question from the field. What are effective ways to get a fresh perspective daily? So I'm guessing there's maybe some motivational needs there on a daily basis from this caller.
Yeah. So to get a fresh perspective daily, it depends kind of like what you want to do. I avoid listening to the news almost at all costs, because I can just feel my my state changing if I hear the news. But I did think I was missing out a little bit of news. So what I did was through Audible, I can get the Wall Street Journal. You can get the Wall Street Journal and you get the New York Times for free. So I said, okay, I'll do the Wall Street Journal. Did the Wall Street Journal. And I thought, you know what, this is kind of cool. I'm learning more stuff that I wouldn't be learning. And I think I'll get the New York Times. Got the New York Times, I found myself getting depressed, right? Because of this story and that story, just to sell the newspaper stuff. So what could you do? You have to continuously be learning. And when you're continuously learning, no matter what subject is, you're rewiring your brain for one thing, which is a good feeling, but it kind of gets you motivated. Over the weekend, I was looking through something on Audible, and I saw dinosaurs, and it was like free. It was 2.5 hours on dinosaurs. And Saturday, while I was putzing around my house and doing things, I listened to dinosaurs for 2.5 hours right there. So what I would say, try to learn stuff, whether best to learn right in your field, if you're first starting out, but just continue to learn that, Darren Daly, you can listen to that motivational thing. You can there's so many things on YouTube and things like that, a TED Talk, anything you want to do. But you have, you want to do it, and you want to probably do it first thing in the morning when your brain is in that alpha state and it becomes part of your routine. I have that as my part of my routine, even when I send it, you know what, you can tell them when I send you this email with all these different steps in it, said, oh, you feel like that? Here, just do this every morning. It'll be right in there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, good stuff. We send the Darren Daly out to our field every day, so I understand Darren does a great job.
Yeah.
One more question, and this must be a follower here for you. Hang on, Ron. We'll get to you in a second. So they say you got your 7 principles of success, and you indicated that your biggest piece was to stay on schedule and be disciplined. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, here's just as observation. What I've observed of realtors and independent contractors, your ability to stay on schedule and do what you're supposed to do has always the biggest impact to me on them being successful, because we got a prospect, but if you don't put prospecting in your schedule and you don't do it, you're behind the 8 ball. So I guess maybe, I don't know how much more your ability to stay on your schedule. You're gonna plan, you're gonna work from a list, okay? And the thing about working from a list is you start to do the easy things on the list. So the best thing about that is then you break that list down to the 7 most important things you need to do. Put time frames next to those 7 most important things to do. For example, if you think a task's gonna take you 30 minutes, you put 30 minutes next to it and try to finish it in 30 minutes. Because Parkinson's law says work expands or contracts to fit the time allotted. And I guess maybe even Parkinson's law is a good reason to stay on your schedule. but you got to put the most important things that you have to do in your schedule and then just do them.
Perfect. Ron, I didn't mean to cut you off earlier. Go ahead with the question.
Oh, I was just going to ask you the question. Any other questions from the queue? And if not, maybe those people that are thinking about asking questions, jump into that chat and ask a question of Gino in the remaining time. I'll grab 2 quick questions. And first of all, a shout out to Tom Ferry, because this next question is going to be for you to address the issue of coaching. But, you know, both you and I, you've had a relationship with Tom Ferry for 25 years since he was a kid, working for his dad's company. He's an amazing coach, and I've had a great relationship with him as well for, 20 years myself. Address this question, and there's the second part of the other question, which is talk about coaching and how that plays a role in how you advise people to engage in coaching and what it does for them, what it's done for you. And then the second question is, I'm going to ask you, is the power of a handwritten note. So let's hit those 2 things.
Okay, so let's go with coaching. If you think about coaching, if you think about any great athlete, and all the best teams kind of have the best coaches, right? So it's pretty obvious that we need coaching for an independent contractor, or for a loan agent, or for an agent. The best thing about coaching is it's not magic at all. But you're paying X number of dollars for it, and your coach's job is to say, okay, Ron, you committed to calling 10 realtors every day this week, so that's 50 realtors. How many did you call, right? And it's just that accountability of having to report in. One of my favorite sayings, and I would always blurt this out, and then one time I go to a Tom Ferry event, and he's got it on one of those posters, but it's, when performance is measured, performance improves. When performance is measured and reported back, the rate of improvement accelerates, right? That's what you're doing in coaching. And maybe you're saying, okay, here's another way to do it, or how about you try this, or how about you try that? But the thing of coaching is it keeps you accountable to doing what you're supposed to do, and many times even on the days that you don't feel like it, right? It's kind of like it's just another discipline. And you've paid for it, so you might as well do it. But I would tell you this: if you're not going to do what the coach says, it won't matter. It's like this one. You heard the one about the Catholic priest, right? And this Jewish rabbi, and they're kind of they meet at a party, and they kind of hit it off. So they start going to different events, sporting events, and they go to a basketball game, and they go to a football game, and they're in New York, and they go to this boxing match in Madison Square Gardens. And right before the match is about to start, the one boxer gets down on his knee and does Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Amen. And the Jewish rabbi goes, I've been seeing that all the time. What does that mean? And the priest goes, well, if he can't box, it doesn't mean anything, right? And then you guys are supposed to be laughing. That was funny, Okay,
We're muted, but we are laughing.
Yeah, okay. But in any case, so that's same as coaching, right? If you don't do it, it won't mean anything. It's the same as that guy making the sign of the cross. If he can't box, it doesn't mean anything.
Well, that's awesome. I appreciate that one very much. So talking about the power of a handwritten note, I heard you say it in a 2012 YouTube video with Tom Ferry. I saw you say it in a June 2019 video that you just did, podcast with Tom.
And recently I saw a big picture of you with thousands of notes around you.
Yeah, and that was in the beach house. That was in Dwight's house, Dwight's old house. So when you watch A Football Life with Dwight, you'll see the same background. But in any case, yeah, I used to write X number per day. The goal was 5 a day, 25 per week, and then I could get 100 for the month. And that really kind of came from Buffini. He is really big into the handwritten notes. But I was in writing handwritten notes before Buffini sold his first house. But he kind of grabbed that by referral type thing, which is really, really great. So now, again, I have to have a system. So we did this call, right? And so I might say, Deetra, I got to write, Ron and Craig and Doug and Dave, and I got to write the guys, and Rob, a handwritten note, right? I got to write them a handwritten note. So boom, she'll put that into a file, and then she will track down your address, and everything else, and have the envelope right there. And then boom, here will be the list. And I'll just crank them out. So now I do it more, maybe 2 or 3 times a month, but I'll do a lot at one time. That's what you were seeing in that picture at my beach house. I was doing 75. I committed to doing 100 for that month. And it was I've had it down where I would write, to make my commitment, if I committed to doing 100 and it's Easter Sunday and it's the 31st of the month and I only wrote 20, I'll write 80 that day just to make my commitment, right? So it's just a matter of, again, committing to it and doing it. But it's huge. I've created great relationships on that handwritten note.
I got to believe the impact of that is just immeasurable.
It's the I got a quick little story for you on that one, on handwritten note, because everybody like to hear it. Steve Mariucci, the former coach of the 49ers. Now, I hadn't met him, even though I'm pals with Dwight. Dwight was already retired and gone when Mooch was in. But I ran into him at a pizza parlor, Campo de Bocce, one of those little Italian bocce ball places. And he was there picking up a pizza, and I was there with a group of Intero, and I had my little Intero shirt on, and he was waiting for his pizza, and I had the value pyramid on the back of it, and kind of intrigued him when he was looking at the value pyramid. So I took a little picture with him and said, "Hey, Steve, Gino Blefari," and just that. Okay, goodbye. So I write him a handwritten note. Steve, great seeing you at the pizza parlor. By the way, here's a little, and I got a gift card from that pizza parlor. And next time you have pizza, have it on me. Sent it to him. Don't hear anything from him for 3 weeks or so. Then I was talking with a guy in Southern California, a great realtor at San Luis Obispo, and because we were in NLP together. It was a Mike Ferry coaching thing, neuro linguistic programming that Tom Ferry was doing, and my daughter was going to San Luis Obispo, and so I was talking to the agent down there, and I don't remember his name, great Remax guy. His name escapes me right now since I hadn't planned on giving this example here, but it is a great example. Hal Lindsay is his name, great realtor. You guys should get him as a customer because he does 200 deals a year. Hal Lindsay, say, Gino told me to call you, the Remax guy. Any case, I'm in San Luis Obispo. So I'm talking to Hal, and we're talking, and he goes, yeah, I just sold Steve Mariucci's house because his kid is going to Cal Poly. So I said, okay, great. So now, 3 weeks later, I write Steve, dear Steve, we have something more in common than 2 Italian guys that like pizza. You have a son at Cal Poly. I have a daughter at Cal Poly. Have another pizza on me, Gino. Boom, send it off. Nothing happens. 3 weeks later, I get this. I'm in Virginia Beach because you remember it is when Steve Mariucci calls. I'm in Virginia Beach, and I just got my iPhone. It's like 2008, where the iPhone, or 2000, whenever the iPhone first came out, and it says where the call's coming from, right? And San Jose. I pick it up. Hello? Hey, Gino, Steve Mariucci. Hey, Steve. Gino goes, I just got back from 3 weeks in Italy, going through all my mail, all these bills, all this junk mail, another handwritten note from you. Okay, darn. How's your daughter doing? How's this? How's that? I'll text Steve Mariucci during the Super Bowl on the NFL channel and get a text back now, all because of the handwritten note. Countless stories like that.
That's a great story, and what a fantastic one to end on. We're at the end of our time here. I don't see any other questions in the queue, and so let me be the first one to thank you from the bottom of my heart. This has been an amazing experience. Your stories and your experience are just speaking volumes to our whole audience. So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Happy to be here. And Ron, if you want, I will send you kind of like an outline of a little bit of stuff of the morning routine, which has getting into the right state, writing in the journal, the gratified journal, 10 things that made people that made you happy, 3 things that made you happy in the last 24 hours, programming your non-conscious mind, just kind of a whole little system. Some of the things I talked to you guys about the West Coast offense, it'll be all laid out there. Here's what I can promise. It's easily good for 2 more loans per month for every one of your loan agents if they followed the plan. Okay, so that's what 2 times 12 is 24 times a zillion loan agents you got. That'd be pretty good, right?
Gino, I mean, we are ever grateful for your wisdom. And the thing that you do that I notice, and I've noticed this since I met you, is your willingness to share. And it's just an amazing thing. And I can't tell you how much we thank you and appreciate you about everything you're willing to share and give us.
Hey guys, I'm in the mortgage business too, right?
Oh.
But we're friendly competitors, and there's a lot of business, and the best person wins, right?
Absolutely. Really appreciate it, Gino. It was great stuff. I think you said someone you were talking about, Warren. Wowzer, we'll back at you, my friend. Wowzer, wonderful job done. We're blessed to have you here. Very grateful. Thank you for your time.
We'll see you.
God bless, Gino. Thank you.
Well, Gino, again, thank you so much. I know if I was still writing loans, I would be sending a handwritten letter to Hal. And hopefully Hal gets about 10 or 15 handwritten notes from people on this call. And we'll hopefully get some business from them. But thank you again to everybody on the call. Again, feel free to register for future events at www.amerifirst.com/speakers-series. With that said, we'll shut it down for today. Thanks again, Gino, and have a great weekend.